I think we've got you online there. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
So firstly, thanks, Oleg, for joining us. Oleg, you're suffering through winter there in Sydney, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And you have a winter
cold.
winter cold as well.
Okay,
No
so
worries.
should I start?
I'm going to turn over to you, and
Yep.
so if you can start sharing your screen, and I'll try and just whatever I can this side.
Okay, I hope you have full screen now.
Yeah, we do. I'll
Okay, good morning, everybody. It's afternoon in Australia, morning in Vietnam. I will be presenting on Moc Chau Plum. Who knows me probably wouldn't expect anything else because I'm working with these plums for more than 10 years now. This presentation was put together by me and my assistant, Cham, who done some of the work, but the work was also done with people from Kasarad, from Favri, from university, from Vanua, and also with some people who left project, like Kokany and Nya, who was my assistant for a long time. So I acknowledge.
Just before you start, Oleg, can you somehow, we've got my picture on the screen, so do you want to go to full screen and then we can, and people can just listen to you?
I believe you have to switch off camera. I don't know what I can do.
Don't switch off camera. Let me just before you start, let me just try from below here. I think we can manage it. Yeah. Okay, I think this will help. Okay, now we've got you and your presentation. So yeah.
Okay, you don't have yourself anymore. Huh?
Yeah, no, that's right. It's okay. You and the presentation.
No, I can't see my presentation. So wait. Okay, all good. Okay. Okay, so Moc Chau is a district in Solar province in the northwest of Vietnam, and it's with Ba Ha in Lao Cai province is a major production area of plums. In 2016, which when our project finished, the total area in Moc Chau and with plums for more than 4,000 hectares. What you actually should also notice here is that the production area was only 2,800. So there was lots of planting put in that time. And the reason for that was increasing price of plums year after year, increased demand and export to China and all over Vietnam. So if you look in 2016, 28,000 tons was produced, of which to China went about 40% as a green, and then much smaller percent, about 10, as ripened plums. The rest was sold as a ripened plum in Vietnam. Now, what's important to notice here, it's 2016. If you look 2019, it will be completely different. Believe or not, there's no China export this year at all. Or 2020, sorry, we are in 2020. So if you look, so what I want to really present is this evolution towards the association, because as a project we started in 2011, 2013 by developing chain, which was very narrow chain for modern retailers. At that time, most of project, with vegetable project, beef project, all our projects were concentrating on taking opportunity of emerging modern retailers and modern sector in Vietnam. And that's what we were doing. 2011, we started when we only sell 1 ton. By the 2013 was a 3 ton sold. If you look where the why was that? I mean, what's the motivation? If you look at the price on this slide, in high quality one, you can see that the farmers can get double than the price if they go to the normal market, and it's about 4 times more than if they just export to China, right? So the thinking was this is a big opportunity. And as you probably many of you know, many times we just extrapolate and we say this is opportunity, this is how many hectares there are, so we can extrapolate and say this is a huge opportunity and how much the industry would benefit if we actually grow that market. Sorry. What also interestingly, what we in that time we understood also that there is a big competition. Plum actually competing with other fruits. You can not look as a plum as in isolation, and depending on the season, if it's earlier in the, because season vary, if it's earlier in May, then the price is much better. If it's later in a year, then the price is lower because it start competing with lychee, with longas, which come in season at that time. So what we have here is product which is actually it can be substituted. So it's a very risky in a way, the product we having. And what we realized starting from 2010, by this time, which was 2015, that actually this price going up, mainly because there is this huge export to China. And believe it or not, nobody knew where this plum's going and what Chinese doing and how this whole trade is organized. So our team went to Chinese border to actually observe and look what's going on, and find out that this plum's going 2,000 kilometers into China to Kunming. We didn't even understand fully why. If you remember, whoever was last webinar with Dominic, Dominic nicely described the trade, the trade with between Cambodia and Vietnam with the cacao. There's no much difference really. Here you have plum traders. They're going through the border agent, similar to only border agent know who are the traders in Vietnamese side, who are traders in Chinese side. There is no real interaction between Chinese traders and Vietnamese traders. And the same thing is with getting plum from the big truck, so from the Vietnamese truck into Chinese truck. But the difference here is that they're putting from the big 30, 40 tons truck on Vietnamese side to very small truck to cross the border, because by putting the value of the shipment below 8,000 yuan, they are not registered. They don't have to pay any duties or so on. So it's a really great trade. It's not recorded anywhere. There's no statistical data about this export. Why is that important? Why I'm saying that is because actually that make whole more risky, more vulnerable to changes of regulations or things, because it's actually highly unregulated trade. And then what we done then was to actually look and go into China and understand what's going on with these plums. And there is this huge industry in China that are processing plums. And again, when we first time we went in 2015, and you realize the Chinese process about 200,000 tons of plums. Like, it's unbelievably big number. In 2015, we were very confident that this export to China will go for a very long time. That there is no much threats to that trade. We then took a delegation of Sonla province government and the private sector to China, and they tried to make connections so that actually not just we export the raw fresh plums that we actually do some processing in Vietnam, and then the processed plum can be exported to China. And interesting, that's why this really didn't happen, is two things probably, or two obvious things. One was the Chinese and Vietnamese could not agree who will invest. Chinese wanted to invest 100%. They were very reluctant to co-invest, and then the margin of the whole this operation is very low. So if Son La province would not grant the land on some reduced price, so that you can build the processing facilities, if you have to really pay full price of land in Moc Chau or Van Ho, it's actually too high. It's not so profitable. So what happened here since 2015, the Chinese government has enforced strict environmental regulations, forcing closure of many small processing factories. First time in 2015 when we went to Puning, it was about 100 factories. In 2017, there were only 30, and probably today even less, because they really enforced environmental laws. In 2019, that's a big change. Chinese government started to implement strict regulation for agricultural imports from Vietnam. Plum export to China, both ripe and ripe, came to the halt. They did not forbid the trade, but you have to be officially get importer, you have to get official paperwork done, basically, which for mango industry done, and you have export of mango to China, but plum, they did not do it, and there's no export. There was some export in 2019 of ripened plum, no green plum, and this year, as far as I know, there were no. So if you look at, if you remember the first slide, you can see that it's a big shock that happened to this plum industry, and I'm still not fully, I cannot really comprehend what impact of that will be. If you take in account that the area of plum nearly doubled, that many of these new orchards will come to full fruiting just now, full production just now, and then we lost at least 40% of the market. So we'll see what will happen. So in 2016, and again, I'm saying, when I found that many of our research is presented not and doesn't show year, because we really have to show this, because it's so changeable, it's so dynamic, right? The trade of cassava or maize is actually a little bit less dynamic than of horticultural crops, and you can see in that year that lots of plum went to China as a green. But what I really want to show here, if you look at the yellow, this would be this more, now going back to the modern retailers. That was still our focus, all right? If you remember 2013, we just reached about 3 tons. In 2016, we reached 50 tons of sale to the modern retailers. And that I think I can use, yeah, I can do, you can see my mouse, okay. So it went to the safe food shops, supermarkets, mini marts, and the price in that segment, again, it's much higher, but the volumes are very low. You also see here that the considerable amount of plums are going to Ho Chi Minh City, and again in 2010 that was not the case. And we also know that from Ho Chi Minh City some goes to Cambodia as well. So that really you have very comprehensive distribution channels for the plums. Okay, so in our first project 2010 to 13, we actually were really looking much more locally and concentrating very quickly on developing chains, with not really understanding where this, fully understand the market, fully understand where these chains sit in the whole picture. So in 2015 to 2018, we actually look at the whole Long Bien wholesale market, and we look that, and you can see that from Vietnam, basically we have Tan Hoa plum, very marginal, and yes, and then there is a lot of different plums coming from China and some coming from overseas. If you look over 3 years, you can see that Son La plum has relatively small volume in comparison to plums coming from China, but also you can see how import from China going down every year, and it was not just for plums, it was for pears, it was for many fruits. You can see this trend of reduction of import from China. Why is that happening? It's not fully clear, and I can't go into this now. But it's important to see that with Chinese, with the many different varieties, they have about 10 different varieties of plum. They actually can have the high volume, and they are present in the market from May all the way until September, while the Son La plum is only 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And the good thing is there's no competition. Seasonality is such that that's why the Son La plum, Moc Chau plum has this advantage. It's basically before Chinese, they don't directly compete, and there is opportunity to export to China exactly because of that coming area. If you look at the volumes, now we're going to this niche market, modern market, then you can see that the Mart in 2017 was by far the most important player in this graded higher quality plums, and then all these other like Bac Tom, Big Gris, and so on, they were all smaller player. The total was about 50 tons. And if you look at that safe food retail segment, they are very segmented. They have 24 different little chains. And if you look at how much they really sell, they sell in a day, all them together, less than 1 ton per day, 18 to 21 tons in a season. 31% of them said the actual retail outlet sell less than 5 kilograms per day. It's minuscule. And yet, us as many other projects actually spend lots of time targeting that same segment. Now, I will still argue there is a reason for that, because to go into that segment, you do need to improve production, and it's like a really carrot for people to try to reach that level and reach that segment. It's a bit of the price is higher, and but it's also some kind of proud coming out of it. I don't want to look. You can see this presentation later, but the different outlets have a different price strategy. But you can see here for that only really clever fruit, and the Moc Chau plum was the only Vietnamese produced fruit which was actually sold in clever fruit, has by far highest price, and there was a really special grading for that. All others, the quality of plum going there, it was not much higher than actually in a wholesale market. They were graded, but not to that extent. Only really the clever fruit has bigger and sweeter plums and so. But the price, you can see it's a double, and it's again because it's so priced, it's a very small volume. You can do like this. Farmer gate price, we only collected 2017, and then you can see this is the blue is ungraded plum, and the red is plum sold modern retailer, which is graded. For many farmers, because of the volume is so low, they don't see actual benefit. There's too much hassle to grade and to sell less than 10% of your total harvest. So basically, what happened over time is that there were only 2 groups of farmers that supply whole that market segment, and for them that was significant volume, because actually out of thousands of farmers growing plums, basically you have 2 groups of 10, probably 20 farmers who supply hold that segment. So as we were doing all this, we understood that you can't really, like, I mean, it sounds obvious, all right, but that you can't just developing this industry by ad hoc in a way, project coming and doing quite successful development of value chains, but on such a small scale, and then that we have to really look at the industry as a whole, all right? So Jenny Margetts came into the project. She's a private consultant from Brisbane. She's kind of specialized to do the industry planning, and together with her in over a year of intense consultation, we developed. Sorry, I lost my screen. Yeah, good. We developed a temperate fruit sector strategic plan. And that strategic plan was based on production, on market, and leadership and capacity. Have like 3 pillars. Sorry, I just have a bit of technical problem here. Okay, so once we were doing that with Son La province and Laogai province, right? So you have to improve the production outcome, understand the market, and increase demand. Try to increase, actually, you try to develop the market, organize, communicate, and build leadership and capacity, right? And the funny thing was, after we done all this, the government representative said, "Oh, this is really good, but we can't implement it. This go over whole. It's not just the DART. It's not just the Department of Planning and Investment. It's not just of science and technology. This go over so many departments in a government that none of them can have really take ownership of this." And that was this light come out. Ownership of this. Who can own? I mean, government cannot really own the strategic plan for the industry. So we need industry body to own the strategic plan and then to develop it as well. I mean, don't get wrong. When we developed this plan, the private sector was involved, all right? But it was involved, but still it predominantly was with the government institutions. And then as a result of all this, we start in process of forming Son La Temperate Fruit Association. And to represent the interests of temperate fruit stakeholders and facilitate cooperation and information exchange between industry stakeholders, nurseries, producers, traders and processors, local government, etc., to promote the sustainable development of temperate fruit industry in Son La province. And from the very beginning, this idea was very well accepted by everybody, by local government, by the private stakeholders. And when we started, we had a first kind of workshop meeting with the stakeholders in June 2018. And I would think that in 6 months we will have association. Well, it took us nearly 2 years. The association was just formed in March. It's a month ago, in the beginning of June. It was a very long process to get this association running. It's in a way it's a bit sensitive thing, because you get a new player who supposed to do advocacy for industry, influence policies, and give actually voice and power to producers, processors, and the traders. And at the moment, the association have more than 50, I think about 60 members. And the main thing for association is to try to represent temperate fruit stakeholders, to lobby the government, to facilitate communication, information, and to govern, to give direction to the development. I won't read all this. I think I'm running out of time, but it will be there for you to look. But what's important is that association is still weak. It needs support, and at the moment there is a current Asia project that has goal to support this association. So it's a very, again, it's a very nice, it's a very fine balance between supporting and make association dependent on external funds. So we have about a year to make this association self-sufficient, and partly the idea is that the association can take ownership of certain new varieties. And so what we've done is that with AMFIC, Australian Nursery Association, we introduced 4 new licensed varieties, the ones which have a royalty attached to it, all right? And then this royalty partly will go into association, and association will manage that introduction. And also the interesting thing is that that association will facilitate forming supply chain for these new varieties. So these new varieties will have some kind of closed chain, so that and will be controlled by these growers and association. I think I should finish soon. I a little bit don't know how much time I use, but what.
Oleg, don't rush. It's Rob here. Don't rush. Just take your time.
Okay, I can take my time. Good. So, as to conclude, we can say that our project did concentrate on this modern segment, and we find out that the modern fruit retail segment is very heterogeneous. And in 2017, transaction between the two collectors and modern retailers represent only 0.02% of solar harvest, right? And then but that probably was satisfied 50 or more than 50% of a total need of that market. There's very few suppliers other than us that supply the segment, right? So the segment is very, very small, but there is a scope for growth from that very low base. Now, why would then we bother doing all this? But I think the presence of Vietnamese plums in modern retail outlets is changing the perception of local plums as a low status fruit and increase consumer demand. The fact that the plum is present in clever fruit, it was a big thing. It kind of, again, it's promotion from the industry. And then you have a positive impact on tourism, or tourism have better to say positive impact on industry, because many they have a harvest festival, there is plum flower festival. So you putting that together, it promote industry and rise status of that fruit. When I started this in 2009, I remember Dr. Han telling me, plums, the Thanh Hoa plum is just cheap fruit for students. Nobody eat that. But today it's very different. The growing involvement of modern retailers should create a more enabling technical and quality upgrading environment, which it did. This could have spillover effect beyond just these chains. It actually, the quality of plum in every chain actually increased. And then we have a quality insurance. We have a Viet gap for plums now on all these plums that are going to these modern retailers. They certify. But with all this, on the end, I think the main conclusion is that building local capacity of private sector to engage with markets, government institutions, and influence policies is best way to secure sustainability of temperate fruit industry. A newly established association have a mandate and hopefully will be the platform to achieve this goal. So it's very important for this that now they can access information. So it's now really providing information and trying to guess where the market heading. That's one thing. The second thing is to diversify. We have to diversify for this one variety to not just plum, but peach, avocado, persimmon. They are all important crops and will be part of this the association mandate. So it's not just plum. Maybe my presentation was on plum, but actually we diversifying in different fruits. I think that's all.
Thanks, Oleg. Now that's a fascinating overview of the evolution of the plum sector. Just remind people that are listening in, if you do have a question of Oleg, use the question and answer icon, and you can submit that there. So, we do have, Oleg, we do have one question there from Plum.
Okay, so I should probably stop sharing screen.
Yeah, that's okay.
And then when I can see questions.
Yep. Yeah, so I'll read out the question whilst you look for it. So we're seeing you now on the full screen. So the question from Zung from the Cooperative Development Agency from MPI in Vietnam is, can modern retail channels like Clever Fruit replace traditional wholesale channels?
Well, it can't. I think that the traditional channels which will taking 99% of a product will not be replaced. What really industry is doing is that there will be this small proportion of growers that will actually go toward this channel. They will be the one that bring innovation in, but then that innovation, new varieties will spread generally, and it will have a positive impact on wholesale, on the normal channels, traditional channels, which are by far the most important.
You mentioned that the markets were quite segmented, not only between the different segments, but within them as well. Have you seen any emergence of e-commerce in the marketing of plums? You see e-commerce emerging with other fruits, particularly in China and less so in Vietnam. But yeah, has e-commerce started to take a hold?
Some, but again, even less than this segment. But I don't know what's happening actually 2019-20, right? Because actually e-commerce taking on faster and faster. But in our time, which was basically up to 2017, some of these shops had e-commerce as well. So some of the plants they will sell, they will just deliver. There was few just e-commerce platforms, I think 2 or 3 at the time, and volume was very, very, very small.
So there's no e-commerce platform being developed from traders and wholesalers operating in Moc Chau, for example, sending directly to consumers.
They're based in there, no, that I know, no. And that's one of the things actually association can try to develop, some of e-commerce facilities.
Because it's affecting everybody's lives so much. The effect of COVID-19 on cross-border trade with China. You mentioned that there was no trade in China in 2019. So
2020 was.
2020, yeah. So and tell me about this year.
So it's not clear to me, and it's same with many things. Is it really just COVID, or it's more substantial than COVID, right? The trade with China will not restore in the same level, I think, ever again. That's my opinion, because the whole processing industry there changed. But I'm sure that there will be the export of fresh plums, but it will be regulated. It will be, you will have to have import permit from China, the quantities will be already limited, or there will be but that's not the problem. We probably have enough space. That it's just that the industry is not organized to do it. And the mango industry is, but what I could observe is that actually Chinese coming to Songla, and they are there in the packaging house when the mango is exported. So I think the value of mango is much higher than plum. So it's a much more incentive for that to be organized. What was in this with the plum was really great trade.
Yeah, and so is this issue, like in terms of import-export permits and getting all the registrations correct, is that now being raised to a priority for the new association? Because essentially
that's right. That's right. That's absolutely priority for association. That's exactly the role of association. Yep. The association role is to really to ensure compliance with all export requirements, to help people to actually comply. Plus, the very important thing is to organize to introduction of new varieties with the license, with the breeders, with the breeder rights protection. Be able to boost confidence of these breeders to give that new varieties, because the association will govern how it's then sold and spread, and how the royalties will be collected. But at the moment, the 4 varieties we actually done, it's very simple, right? It's very simple. It will be the all royalties will happen at the time of sale of seedlings, because anything more complicated, I don't think they're ready, right? So it will be for 1 hectare, the fee is 1,000 Australian dollars. That's it. They pay once, they get enough seedling for 1 hectare, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned the segmentation in the market side. Can you just tell us a little bit about on the segmentation on the production farmer side, and particularly the kind of the groups of plum growers that might be the commercially orientated, and those that may be partially or not at all, and what some of their motivations and reasons for adopting or not adopting, as it often is the case, improve technologies to improve their quality, to improve their yield, and increase their income.
So really the development of farming groups that supply these modern retailers is driven by the local traders. They're still kind of farmers which become traders. They have their own orchard, and then they have a group of farmers around them to be able to supply that market. Most other farmers are disorganized, and they have a local collectors which come, and basically, like for green plums, they would come, give them bags and say, okay, you have 2 days to do the harvest. You put on the road, they come, they pick it up. Very simple. If you look from farmers' perspective, the plum is just one of many things in their farming system, and they're not, again, they spread their risks. So that's why I think, I mean, if this is anywhere else in Australia, if all of a sudden export, which take 40% of total production, stop, our industry will just collapse. But there is this resilience on this smallholders level, I believe, because they have so diversified systems of their farming. So yeah, there's still corn, there is still some beef, or so they subsidize that. And the same is with vegetables. The vegetable market changing so quickly, and the off season disappearing, especially for cabbage. So it's so dynamic. Yeah, and that's why we need these associations, and we need these really informations, and so that people can adjust what they do and how they do.
Yeah.
But it's a low input, as you know. This is all low input. It will be different once because they don't pay for seedlings because they do marketing or they get free, and once we start introducing these much more valuable varieties, and then you will stretch the season over a few months, because there will be early ripen one and the later ripen ones and so on. Then the things will start changing. The risk will be higher, and the farmers will be more, if you say, professional.
Mm-hmm. Okay, no, that's excellent. I mean, I'm just going to finish up with one final question. Really, is about, from a value chain research point of view. When you look back on the development of the plum markets and value chains and the research that's been done, what are some kind of takeaway messages or insights from your point of view that you would kind of leave us with?
From value chain perspective?
Yeah, from a research perspective too.
Yeah, I really think that we have, as a project, and I say ACR, do more broad market research, understand big picture, and support development of capacity within local institutions to actually do the market intelligence, to actually understand the trends and what's happening, and then the development of value chain, which is usually all you have to do, really connect people. Like all what it is get the bunch of traders, farmers, and the people on retail side, on perspective, whatever, exporters together. Then they find their way how to develop their chains and value chains. But we have to understand the broader picture, the really where market heading, and give that kind of advice, and then put right players together. In my experience, like if I look at my first project, we spent so much time doing things like just developing box, how to package the plants, and then whatever we were producing at that time, doesn't matter, it's a box or grading or trying to push the pruning, but the thinning of the plant. It was all wrong, really, because we come from this richer perspective. It should be done this way, but actually farmers, traders and retailers between themselves, they find their way.
Yeah, no. So originally you had a very strong technical focus on technical issues and the farm level or post harvest or wherever, and now it's
but if you really look from this socio-economic perspective, we have to help develop these institutions on local level. Because the part of this was we took Vietnamese delegation to visit our industry association, like avocado industries, macadamia association, and you can see how in Australia the industry association are key for market development. They're really key for market development, key for getting the right amount of product at the right time on the market, and that's what we try to do here.